Hello and welcome to the Baden Masters 2013. We are live here in Baden to watch the quarterfinal team Thomas Ulsrud against team Nicholas Edin. My name is Bastian Wies and alongside with me is Roger Gulka. Hello Roger.
Yeah, good evening, good evening. So, quite excited actually to see that game between two teams that will be playing in the Olympics in Sochi there next February. For all the curling lovers, it's a perfect period actually, the Olympics for that. And you'll see two of the best teams from Northern Europe, Sweden versus Norway in a way. And always the fancy pants versus, let's say, normal pants in a way.
Yeah, of course. It's certainly really exciting as we've got the current European and world champion Nicholas Edin on the sheet tonight, but also no less than Olympic 2010 runner-up Thomas Ulsrud. So quite a lot of achievements in the careers of these guys.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember, but I suppose all the Swiss supporters remember that bronze medal game of Ralf Stockley against Niklas Edin, which was one. It was really, I remember, it was really stressed during that game, and it was a last shot win for Stockley. I think Edin wants to come back to the Olympics and make a medal. So we'll have two very motivated teams for this season. And already a very offensive start now with two guards and a rock being drawn into the house.
And as said, this is a quarterfinal game. They both qualified after a round robin where 5 teams played each other, and the first 2 of each group went through to the quarterfinals. Thomas Ulsrud won his group, whilst Nicholas Edin struggled a bit, and in the end still managed to slip through to the quarters. So now the matchup for the entry into the semi.
So Thomas Ulsrud having the hammer in this first end. Once again, it's always good to have the hammer, at the start. It's usually an advantage that teams never give up on, because it's always nice, when you have the hammer, you can score first, and if you can take a 2 right off the bat, start perfectly the game, and take a big advantage on your opponent, who will have to be the whole game running after you. It's always something that you want to take.
Yeah, and especially at the start where you're not quite sure of the ice probably, and you're quite happy if you've got, let's say, safety insurance with the last rock if things go badly.
So Christopher SWE, second. Yeah. Also will arrive at the Olympics. It will be 4 years after actually that team started wearing their fancy pants. I don't know if have you ever heard the story of how they got sponsored by a loudmouth who makes those pants?
I believe it was just before the Olympics. They weren't quite happy with their team dress or something like that.
Well, it was actually very strange because I think it was Christopher SWE, the second you just saw throwing, who randomly entered a loudmouth shop in Canada, and he asked, "Can you sponsor us?" They said, "Okay," and they gave them the pants.
Yeah, I think the whole thing was that they didn't like their team dress for the Olympics they had, but they couldn't do anything about the shirt, so they thought, well, let's do it for the trousers at least. Something like that.
Probably. But it was a big buzz actually on the internet. There's still a Facebook group The Norwegian Olympic
Curling.
team, curling pants, something,
Yeah.
something like that. And I remember because I joined, there were maybe 5,000 people. That was just after the first curling game. And it went up to 200,000 people in that group. It was quite crazy. And now there's 500,000.
Well, it's absolutely crazy. Probably more people like the curling pants than any curling team in the world. Yeah. So
that's half the population of curlers in Canada. 1 million curlers is biggest country yet, but we have other countries in Europe who can produce good teams, like Sweden and Norway, who have actually been constantly teams who've made medals and good results. Edin is quite a young team actually. They're also formed in there's a special school now actually in Sweden where they can do sports and school at the same time. So
yeah, I think it's probably one of the first of its kind. It's actually called a curling academy. So it's got also great infrastructure for young curlers.
Now, well, I would say a reasonably good situation for Team Ulsrud, who has two shots in the house, despite the fact that one of their rocks is behind the tee line, which is never really an advantage, and that Edin still has a center guard, which will, in theory, play in his advantage, because he doesn't have the last rock. Well, a hit and roll from Sebastian Kraup, third man for the Swedish team.
Tror du det glattere der nå, eller? Det bra. Ja, 2,95 på Håvard, ja. Ja, det 3 blank på han. 14,5! 3 igjen. 3 blank, 3 igjen. Pass på at vi blir bedre enn han, da. Sånn som det ligger nå, så det egentlig greit å komme helt ned på 4 fot. Ja. Feil stein. Hadde du is der, eller?
Gjerne hold den ute der. Linje! Stopp der. Litt lang ut. Bra linje nå. Bare med nå. Hvor lang?
Din satte
Vær med, ja. Linje!
Helst ikke!
And as always on our live broadcast, if you've got any questions or comments, feel free to write an email to life@curlingchampionstour.org. We will be happy to answer any questions. You can see the address on the bottom of your screen right now. So we are always looking forward to emails and comments of you guys out there.
Yeah, and we're always quite happy to receive some emails. Usually they always come from all around the world. I mean, from Switzerland or whatever, Germany, Russia, or even Canada, USA. Well, we're always glad to communicate with our curling fans. Because as we know, curling is not only a sport, it's also a big family.
Hvis han flærer alt her, hva gjør vi da? Treffer en av dem, måtte. Slå på egen rett. Hello? Ja. Samme. Ja, det gis der.
Ja, det var litt tight nesten, men det er greit.
Jeg var litt tight på min, ja. Men min var litt lang også, så det var jo ganske tight da.
Ja.
Ja, det der jeg synes du skal ta litt til.
Kant 8, ikke noe mer. Holder det, Torger. Du var litt tight.
Bare halv 8-fot i hvert fall.
Full 8 er ideelt. Du må det da.
Den er halv 8-fot, den der. Torgeir 3 blank.
Ja, 3 blank. Nå var det urørt. Så 3-10 er egentlig ideelt for å holde den litt sånn halvvarm.
Ja. Trenger å få litt bue også.
Ja, trenger å få litt bue også, men vi vil ikke være dype, altså man kan fryse det vekk.
So here we have Thomas Ulsrud, skip from Norway. Very calm man on the ice.
6-7. Gå da. 6.
An important
Linja bra.
draw there.
Masse plass!
Good
Linja
position in
bra.
the control zone.
Kun 8 fot!
It's very important
Linja
for
bra.
him to lie
Full 8 fot i hvert
guard
fall.
Gir en Torgersen.
very, very important for him to
Linja.
lie in front of the
Full
T-line.
8, må gå snart!
He has the last rock. He doesn't want to allow Edin
Ja. Ja, dra. Hjemmen. Ja, hard.
That seems like a pretty good shot there.
Man kant her, eller? Du har luft på utsidan, mer luft på insidan. Det är luft där också. Mer luft där. Ja, men är det luft där? Ja, det är det. Ja, spelar en skjutningen är ju inget enklare än det här hålet. Nej. Så här kan du ju komma in hit. Ja. Ska vi spela den så här?
Now Edin in quite a bit of trouble right off the start. First in with lots of rocks in play. I actually kind of wonder what call he made there.
Det är nu den kommer. Pass. Ja.
Edin is quite a young player, born in 1985 and having played 4 World Junior Curling Championships with 1 gold and 3 silver, so that's 4 finals out of 4 World Curling Championships. 4 European Curling Championships and 1 time at the Olympic Games.
Yep.
Big weight, that's what he likes, I think. Just went for the rocket, make sure that Ulsrud doesn't score more than 2. Yeah, I don't know really what he could have done more there.
Yeah, it was quite a good throw from Thomas Ulsrud in the first place, so it would have been very difficult to get both of the opposition rocks out of play.
Well, I think Thomas Ulsrud kind of had the upper hand the whole end there. We'll end up with probably kind of a logical conclusion, a draw for 2. You don't really expect them to miss it. It can happen, but in general, that level of skips, it's a routine shot. Yeah, practice. I mean, they're there for that. They're there to throw those draws to make 1 extra point. They're, in a way, simple shots for an advanced curler, but extremely important. So 1 extra point gives you a considerable advantage sometimes.
Samme linje. Litt videre, kanskje. Litt videre linje. Linja er bra nå. Samme linje nå.
And sweepers just control this easily.
Litt videre.
And it's in the house, and that's 2.
Mer snert.
Now we would like to take the chance to thank our main sponsors of this event, which would be Bank Raiffeisen Hotel du Parc and Dahubache Sicherheitsdienste.
skrevet køl. Kom med køl over.
So we had a message from Howard in England. He said he's quite happy to have curling back on TV. He played hockey and is back home with a beer to watch the game. So enjoy your beer, and yeah.
Yeah, to your question, Howard. Yes.
And he asked actually who was the team of Murdoch.
Yes, David Murdoch played this weekend with Tom Brewster, Greg Drummond, Michael Goodfellow, and Scott Andrews.
Yeah, fifth player. So yeah, it's a
Same
Murdoch plus Brewster team.
Same lineup they had for the Worlds.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the Olympic team also.
I am not sure.
Well, we're not sure though because they choose individually, but we can expect it will be them.
Huh?
Yeah, the Scottish team who probably they're quite disappointed didn't make it to the quarterfinals, but it's first tournament of the season, so you can't always make it. We'll see them on next occasions, and probably we'll have the chance to comment them also on Lala at TV. So anyway, thanks for your message, and I hope we answer your question.
Om det skulle skje, så greit.
Fristende å legge i høygard.
Hæ? Ja, det er greit for meg. Det er greit lege for noe.
Gard? Ikke det? Det gjør du alltid.
Actually,
Det gjør du alltid.
forgot to precise that
Det er din jobb, da.
Edin is actually the actual world curling champion.
Ja, ja. Wow, wow,
So we got a team with a world champion. It's actually world champion. Well, Ulsrud only finished 5th in the last World Championships. Got a silver medal though, quite recently at the European Curling Championships last year.
Yes, exactly as I mentioned before. Only Nicholas Edin was better in that very tournament in Karlstad, Sweden.
And guess who Ulsrud lost that final against?
Nicholas Edin.
Yep.
Bak 4.
Bara köla så vi får någon träff på nästa.
Ligger bak 4 i fall.
Fjärdedel.
Ja.
Okej. Jeg lurer på om vi prøver å rulle inn her, altså. Flytte den litt og sitte her i stedet for. Okay. Sånn som det er nå, så kan han komme ned og fryse der. Og ligge litt i det åpne, flytte den litt. Spille vanlig. Litt opp da, eller? Solid vanlig. Solid vanlig.
So quite a good situation for team Thomas Ulsrud there. Not a lot of danger. They seem to be very much in control.
Yeah.
Yep.
Vanlig opp.
Ren.
Andre veien da. Andre vei.
Hard.
Bra spill.
Bra spill.
Pretty good shot from Christopher SWE.
Plainvann eller mineral? Ja, mineral. Stikker inn litt hardt.
Og Victor. Og Victor. Den første garden din, og så runder han gjennom nå.
Thinking out what he's going to do.
Fart igenom här. Japp. 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 Rent. Tack. Tack. Fint. Kom igen. Bra. Eller garda? Halle holder lenge.
Ikke garda.
Nei. Hvis du vil.
Hvis begge ryker, så har han lett å dra rundt, da.
So Edin managed to take some quite good position there in the control zone in front of the T-line, in front of the forefoot. Ulsrud is a little bit annoyed.
Håvard hadde der til senterlinja.
He has to be careful.
Toer der for litt avstand.
Hva vil du ha?
Toer. Halv stein fra senterlinja.
Det er utsida vi må garde, så han ikke får tappa.
Ja. Hold den ute der. To. Hold den ute der. Ligger bra nå. Bare rent. Rent. Ligger bra. 2,5. Ligger bra. 2,5. Vær med den på slutten, Sva. Ja. 2,5, 3. 3. 2,5, 3. 2,5.
Det holder, det holder.
Bra.
So the Norwegians decided to just guard their own shot rock.
Yeah,
So Nicholas Edin would have to make a move.
I think it's a pretty good option in a way. He's blocking the center, he doesn't have last rock, and he's actually in quite a good situation to steal, you know?
Yeah, I quite like this call as well, because if Nicholas Edin wants to get to that center at any point again, he will first have to clear up the middle. And, because both ways he cannot get to the shot rock at the moment, so he will have to open a bit and
Run back.
okay, that was a very nice shot.
A very nice shot there indeed from third man, Sebastian Kraup from Sweden. Nice little lightweights, move everything up perfectly. Nice control. Ulsrud has to be careful, he doesn't have last rock. And Edin is now in a good position there in front of the forefoot.
Har det vært en frys, eller? Ja. Er det en frys du vil, eller? Fart! Frys!
Ren dragning.
3-1. Forrige var 3-2-ish.
Sju.
Wow, da hvis det er 7. Bekk hvis det er 7. 28 er 7. Wow.
Bare frys.
Vær med på linja.
7. Linja er strøken. 7. Køle hvis vi kan.
Wow.
Køle hvis vi kan.
Og den køller opp.
Køle hvis vi kan.
Den køller opp.
Torger,
bremser
air
den
guard,
Ja, nå kommer
coming
vi i
up with
balans.
the freeze.
Helt ned. Helt ned.
Yeah, as we can see now,
Ja, litt
both
til, litt
teams
til,
are
litt til,
trying
litt
to
til,
take
litt til.
position in the control zone. You always want to be actually in front of your opponent's rocks.
Vi er skott i alla fall, men.
Yeah, like this, you ensure that your own move cannot be your own rock cannot be removed
Exactly.
without
Bare
the
frys den
opponent's
kanskje.
rock going out as well.
Yeah, that you need at least 2 rocks to get out of your. The opponent needs 2 rocks to get rid of your own rock. And now it seems like we're going for a little freeze game. See rocks piling up. There will be probably a situation where one of the 2 teams will end up throwing a takeout at those rocks in the center.
Linjen er bra.
Vi behöver gå för fart. Tror vi behöver gå för att få en frys.
Always makes interesting
Tror vi
games.
behöver gå.
Rent. Japp.
Ni har en. Ni har en.
Gärna lite linje.
Linjen är bra.
Ja, ni har
Lite dött nu.
Okej.
Det är perfekt
Frys
fart.
som den kan. Linjen är
Ja, det är
helt
perfekt
perfekt.
fart. Perfekt fart.
Ja, fint.
Yeah, another freeze. For those who are not too familiar with curling, freezing is just staying in front, like throwing your rock just in front as close as possible to another rock, just like we see there, the red on the yellow, and the yellow on the red.
Ja, men jeg tenkte også at du legger den noe her da.
Ja, da kan han slå her.
Slå her, den der får du faktisk ikke helt ut da.
Jo, her sånn.
I think they have quite a good angle there though if they want to throw at
Du
it.
treffer jo hvis du treffer inn her.
Ja, du skal ha den helt ut hit.
But I think that yellow rock is guarded.
Yeah, there is still a center guard in front of it.
But the angle is not too bad, maybe with a little tap or something, you know, hack weight.
Nei, jeg tror ikke vi har så mye annet.
See if they look at this or they just look at something else.
It looks like
We can't really see who's lying shot rock
Da
right
sitter du
now.
her da.
yeah, they're going for
Ja, ser du mye
the outside roll, probably.
Du kan jo kline til, så blir det en øverste gullet liggende, men alle de andre to ryker.
Se akkurat hele.
Discussing through all the
Jeg ser akkurat hele Torgeir, men det er klart at hvis du er litt på high side, så kan en gule bakse bli sittende da.
Business of teams
Begge de røde ryker.
agreeing about the shot to be played.
Hvor er det da, Is?
Tjukkall.
I mean, we often always
Easy
look at the
treffpunkt,
thrower,
så går
but
det
we
helt
always
rett.
forget that sometimes the rock is not only just about the thrower, but it's a whole team success. I mean, you got 4 players, one which gives the ice, one who throws, and 2 who sweeps. And if either of them makes mistakes, the shots can be missed. So every rock is actually a team success, every successful rock.
Det kan bli bra.
Ulsrud, very experienced
Whoa!
skip.
Wow, wow,
Away,
wow!
11
Alt opp, egen
European
over!
curling
Følg
champions.
legen da.
oh, and there very nice shot, exposing the yellow now.
Yeah. Dean has to be careful because if you hit on that yellow rock, the 8-foot, I think one of the red rocks goes on the other yellow on the button. So he has to move his angles a little bit, I think.
Stor risk för det, ja. Om vi skjuter ner garden då för att öppna upp garden så det inte blir lika farligt. Sätta garden på den skjutningen. Så. Det är ganska stor risk att de ligger 2 efter slaget. Ja. Om vi inte spelar mjuk. Det är det frysen där på. Vi har lägger sig flera sten i bot, men den är ju för gömd. Det jag funderade på var att spela den med någon slags 10 take.
So now we can see all the rocks in the house. The house is this big circle. For those who are not too familiar with curling and watching us, maybe you have to try and get rocks closer to the center. Try and score points. You know, play pétanque, maybe.
Så säkert ligger 3 i bot.
I have played pétanque.
Man slår den, vicka dit någonstans. Den ligger kvar
Yeah,
där.
it's a bit similar in a way, except that you have to touch the house to score.
Yeah, and you cannot really move the house, can you?
You can't move the house also. So your rocks have to be inside the house to score and closer to the center than your opponent's rocks. So right now we can see that the team which is the closest to the center is the yellow team. And then there are 3 red rocks who are closer. So right now the yellow score 1, but if ever that yellow moves away, then it's 3 for the red. So the Swedish team, which has the yellow rocks, has to be quite careful not to make a big mistake there.
Bästa om den kan ligga kvar skottad. Man bara liksom peta undan den så den ligger där. Vad vill du spela för farten? 10 take. Ja, då vilka så. Okej. Tycker jag sätter mina 2. Sargen tyckte jag var jävligt bra, eller ja. Bra ärlig sättning. 10 då eller? Ja. Ja, jag tror vi måste ha kvar slagstenen och sätta lite prägg. Det kan bli jävligt dåligt också. Vicka bort den här så vi öppnar upp cornerskjutning eller? Ja. Eller stanna kvar och kan skjuta på den. Ja.
So it seems like he's taking the option for a hit. Yeah, he has to be careful. Yeah, I think his... Yeah, I wonder if he can really have more than one red.
Bra fart! Bra fart! Wow, 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 wow!
Anyway, I think that he needs to move these angles a bit.
Rent! Nej, nej! Ingenting. Wow. Rent! Japp! Japp!
And pretty good shot there. Lightweight takeout. Remaining with 3 rocks in the house. Only 1 shot though. Now it's probably going to be Ulsrud's turn to hit.
I could imagine that you could get out the yellow rocks all at once.
Yeah.
Ser den,
So,
ganske stor. Det lette slaget jo garde. Da har han en variant inn her da.
And all that without even losing
Den 3 eller 4.
any of their own rocks.
Den der.
Kan vi skade oss med å gjøre dette da? Treffe for tynt, hva skjer da? For tjukt?
Hva kan gå gærent her da? Så skjerper.
Skjerpe kanskje ikke så dumt da, men da sitter den med...
Da må du gå noenlunde, da går det ikke gå så hardt da. Hvis ikke så tyter den for langt ut, så legger du opp en dobbeltvariant der.
Hvis du skjerper så ryker jo den. Ja, man må spille på å gjøre den. Heller tynnere, tror jeg. Den tjukkere.
Den er ganske tynn da.
Nei.
Halv.
Ja, halv.
Altså han får en ene likevel, for den der spretter ut der.
Hva tror du det? Ok, hvis den gjør det, så kan vi bare garde, egentlig, men... Han har ikke noe for 2, tror jeg, nå.
Den får 3.
Ja. Han har ikke noe for 3, tror jeg, men... Det er mer at han kan gjøre et eller annet her, og så treffe toppen han, eller... Jeg tror ikke det heller, egentlig. Jeg liker den her, hvis ikke det er sånn at de blir liggende igjen for en lett dobbel hvis vi misser den.
Ja, det er det som kan være skje da.
Det er det. Det kan skje.
Så legger vi noe lett dobbel der, og så ruller vi på nedsida der. Så blir det en 3 i trynet. Men er det noe vits å garde her? Hva har den her?
Jeg synes du kan spille den der, altså. Så lenge du treffer på den siden der, så går jo den og den. Og da ruller du i verste fall, så ruller du bort hit da.
Normalpil da.
Da må i hvert fall settes i stedet da, for 2. Jeg synes du kan spille pil, eller 11 eller noe.
Normalpil da, der. Halv, tjukk halv.
Ja. Tjukk halv.
Tror du ikke den rød tyter ut for langt da, Torger?
Ja, ok.
Hæ?
Halvtreff.
11. Ja, 11.
So yeah, I think he's looking for that
Ser du?
triple on the yellows. All the angles are there.
Solid vanlig.
Well, Luffy would already be quite happy with a double. I mean, the
Double is already enough for now. Eh?
yeah, the yellow one on the right-hand side is not really a danger to Thomas Ulsrud. So if you get to out, you get to out. But if you don't, it's a disaster.
Yeah, advantage though, if you get it out, is that probably your shooter will stay in play, and you'll have 4 rocks because there's one at the back in the house.
Ja. Hardt! Hardt! Hardt!
Sweeping.
Hardt! Hardt!
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, not quite what he expected.
Yeah.
Well, I believe there's only 1 shot rock left, but I'm not quite sure about the 2 left ones. So which one is better?
Yeah, quite a well executed shot, but actually he only has 1 shot now, I think, behind the tee line. So
Nicholas Edin looking to remove that, and if he manages that, then
yeah, with the backline weight.
we would have a deuce for Sweden.
It's funny, I was actually expecting Ulsrud to throw a little bit more weight on this one.
I think it was quite quick already, I would believe.
It was quite a well executed shot though, despite the fact he got maybe a little bit unlucky by not remaining second shot. And now Edin with a backline wait for 2, come back in the game. This is the second end. And it's going to be an 8-end game for this quarterfinal at the m.baden Masters here in Switzerland.
Aldri! Klar då. Sorry. Stenhårt Sebbe!
See a little bit wide. You can see the sweepers.
Well, okay, that is just enough.
Yeah, well,
And
perfect shot.
Yeah, 100% for that. You would get full 4 points.
Yeah. And that's a deuce for the Swedes, who come back to 2-2 after, let's say, a bad start, getting a 2 taken on them right off the bat, but they're back in the game right after that. That's what you want, you know, when you fall back, is come back as quickly as possible. So now they're back tied, and Ulsrud, the Norwegian team, will have the last rock, and Edin will try and force them to score only 1. As we know, when you score, you lose the advantage of the last rock in the next end. And so if you force your opponent to score 1, which is the minimum score is possible to be scored, then you take it back in the next end and you try and score more.
Veldig tight.
I think we're going to see just a classical opening. Center guard, and then a corner guard for Norwegians. So as we know, when you don't have the last rock, you're trying to track the game to the center, and when you have the last rock, you try and put it to the sides, keep the center open for your last rock.
And it's interesting to see how far this corner guard just slid out, because exactly the same thing happened to the Swedes in the end before. So it seems to be quite swingy from the inside out.
Which is good if you want to come behind a corner guard.
That is true. But also has its dangers.
The Swedish all sweeping that rock as hard as they can.
Just to make it cross the hog line.
Yeah.
Yes, it just did. If a stone touches or does not even reach the hog line, it is getting removed from play. And so it's the first goal to get the rock across the hog line by 100%.
Which is this thick black line. And the sweepers will sweep for speed and direction. As you can see, the rock doesn't go straight, it curls. Takes the effect. And if you sweep, it's going to curl less, but also it will go further. You can't slow down the rock, but you can make it go further. Sweeping now has become quite an important part of the game. I mean, more than before. And now you can. Well, I remember when I started curling, we had really heavy brooms, and with our brooms with hair, and now they developed the most sophisticated, technically efficient pads for those sweepers, so that they can be as efficient as possible.
But you still get brooms with hair on them. Maybe not quite the same as they were a couple of years ago, but they are still used. If you look at Christopher SWE's broom, he will use to deliver the rock. That's hairbrush as well. And they are usually used if there is a bit of dirt on the ice. It's easier to scrape any debris off And as well, if there is some frost, you get more efficiency out of it, because the hay broom is a bit scratchier, so it's easier to get the frost off.
Yeah, exactly. Every team actually at level has a something like this in their bag, just in case there's frost. As you know, you can't always control all the ice conditions, despite the fact that for all the big tournaments, you always have the best iceman, a good technical staff, or like good, well-isolated rinks. But the weather often also has an influence on the quality of the ice. Sometimes it's very humid, you can get some frost. So it's always good to have a hairbrush, just in case. You know, in general, sweepers will sleep with the new pads on their broom.
Bak 12. Rent. Gärna håll igång lite. Ja. Japp. Ganska långt. Rent. Bak 12. Rent. Bara fart. Bara fart. Bak 12. Nej, klara. Den är ganska hård. Ja, den hänger kvar också. Bak 12. Nej, perfekt. Nej. Japp. Fint. Bra. Bra snack. Hela? Ja. Fint.
Så bare.
Ja, da enten å prøve den og spinne inn som toer, men da blir du fort sittende foran, da. Og så vil prøve den. Ja. Hva spiller med vanlig? Slapp. Vi prøver å bli sittende.
Ja. Er det ganske mye køl ut der? Vet ikke. Håvard dro garden der, det så ut som det kølte ganske bra.
Bra fart.
Christopher Swab trying to clear up the situation in the center. Nice run back. Good shot. Sadly for him, he doesn't stay. But it's still okay.
Still a good shot, considering the fact that he was able to remove the opponent's rock.
Yeah, I think teams across the last years have really become much better with their run backs.
That is certainly true. Especially the Scandinavian teams. I mean, also Nicholas Edin's team, for example, is great at playing run backs.
Yeah, that's one of their specialities. They're really good at hitting very precisely.
Bak 8! Bak 8!
But it's nearly, I mean, for most teams, it nearly even became a routine shot in the run back. Just like the hit and stay or hit and roll. Run back has become kind of a gimme shot for certain teams.
And here another great tap back.
Yeah. Whether they are takeouts or draws.
And another race takeout is called by Thomas Ulsrud.
He's going for the yellow run back this time.
And the sign he just made was, just hit it on the nose. That's why he touched his own nose.
Poor Nurgard powering out of the hack. Real lot of weight.
Nice shot.
Good shot.
Perfectly executed.
Yeah, I think it was probably the right option to play on the yellow, because if ever he missed the run back, he would have opened up the yellow rock, which would have been, let's say, as we see in curling, a good miss. As if he was trying to run back on the red and missed, then the yellow rock in the center would have still been guarded.
Yeah, that's what you always have to consider when choosing a shot. What happens if?
Yeah.
It's always the big question mark. If I miss it by that much, what is going to happen next?
Yeah.
And this is a perfect example why you maybe should play the opponent's rock, taking away your advantage if you might manage a hit and stick with your own. But that is certainly the right choice.
What you want is always, in a way, to have a result positive for you. So you always want to try something that will give you the most chances at least of having some positive out of the shot. So opening up the center is quite positive for Ulsrud, even if that draw is still in the house. But now directly behind, a little bit fast.
And it looks a bit heavy.
Yep.
Thomas Ulsrud's ready to sweep this rock behind the tee line.
Yep.
Of course, you are allowed to sweep an opponent's rock if it crosses the tee line.
Yep. Only then. And you can only sweep one opponent's shot. So if ever you have two of those rocks, of your opponent's rocks, like moving behind the tee line, you must choose only one of them. You can't have two sweepers sweep the two of them. And so now I think Ulsrud is thinking it's probably a little bit too late to open the center. Rather now make sure he takes position in that control zone. I mean, in the end, when all the curling games, you see it always ends up with who controls this, as we call it, control zone, the zone in front of the forefoot, in front of the tee line. So they had to sweep it for the direction. Sadly, they didn't have the choice, but it's just a little bit too far, I think.
Yeah, now the chance for the team of Nicholas Edin to follow it down exactly the same way, or just a bit shorter. And the steal will be in reach.
Yes, I think Ulsrud will not be particularly satisfied with that shot, but I mean, they didn't have the choice. It was either that or hitting the guard. You said you sweep for weight and direction, and sometimes you can't get both at the same time. And now the big problem is it being behind the tee line. If ever Edin puts that freeze like perfectly, Ulsrud will be forced to open. And Edin will probably just place one in front. And will be in a good situation to steal. So crucial shot now for the Swedes.
Farten är okej! Farten är okej! Bara fart, ni har den. Vänta, gärna curla! Ni har den, farten är där, farten är där. Farten är där. Heden har den. Vi är där själv. Heden närmast. Vi är där, vi studsar sådär. Vi studsar. Vi studsar. Över curla då, sitt. Sitt. Okej.
You just see that, yeah, already the two rocks before had not curled that much. Edin had, I mean, perfect weight. No doubt about that. It just didn't swing inside enough. And he will also be disappointed with that shot, leaving now Ulsrud a really good chance to take really good position in the house now. I mean, I think he can really be anywhere, as long as he doesn't hit the guard.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't hit the guard and is just placed before the two rocks.
If he's a bit short, it's okay.
Yeah.
If he's a bit fast, it's okay.
It's hard to except for
perfect.
screwing on the guard, that would be
Perfect.
bad.
Yeah, you don't want to hit the guard. Now, I think. It's probably something he has at the back of his mind, but this is not so swingy, so he took enough margin for that.
Ja, god plats!
Linja der!
Linja er bra!
7! Wow, 28!
Hvis dere kan vente. 28! Nei, ikke rør!
Very good shot.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for Nicholas Edin to counter that.
Nicholas Edin has to make sure he doesn't get a 3 taken on him now.
Yeah.
Wonder if he's going to throw one of his bombs or try and freeze on top of it. Assume he takes it 2.
det eller gadda in tvåan.
Ja, då kan han ju få spela någon typ av...
Jag tror att ha en den ner mot stöd där.
And as we can see that Red Rock is quite well hidden. I think Ulsrud's shooter is going to be difficult to remove from play now. It's not impossible.
Jag röstar nog för skjutningen hellre faktiskt.
Den var jävligt hård om vi ska kunna få ut dem.
Du måste inte få ut alla, men de har ju 2 nu ändå.
Måste sätta den ganska nära chappen där för att den ska få liksom den effekten. Den
Men
går
du kan ju träffa här.
Ja.
Och spela skjutning för att tappa 2.
Ja.
Nu riskar vi 3an.
Ja.
Det är typ det som är uppgiften nästan.
3an, ja. Ja.
Do you have any idea maybe for that shot?
Jag siktar på här då.
Well, whatever you do is going to be very tough. I personally would quite like the idea of trying to maybe push. I would probably go for letting Thomas Ulsrud take 2 by coming around the guard and maybe play a backline wait on the left right one, on the one that is a bit in front of the T-line, so you manage to push out the second one out of the scoring area. But yeah, Nicholas Edin disagrees with me, and I'm actually not very surprised.
Yeah, well, he's going for the big weight. Now he has to make sure he doesn't hit things wrong.
Or it's going to be even worse
He
than
could
before.
even leave him a 3, but
Whoa!
big push. You can see.
Whoa!
Oh.
Well, that
Well.
was very difficult. You could see a big push there when he releases the rock. Is kind of that, let's say, modern Swedish release. Probably a bit inspired from Lindholm, where they throw and when they release the rock, they kind of push it. And this allows him also to have a lot of power on his takeouts. And if you master that push, you can get a lot of precision. There, I don't know. He was really in a tough situation, so Ulsrud has to think how he's going to come for his drop of 3.
Jag tänkte man skulle precis missa den röda kanske och käka snabbt skotten, men
Yeah.
lurigt.
Tough situation for Sweden. Actually, Edin, who lost his 2 games today, but still managed to qualify. Edin qualifying with 2 wins out of 4 games. He actually won his 2 games yesterday against the Russian team of Andrei Drozdov, and then against the Swiss team of Pister. Finally losing this morning to Dufour of France, 8-6. And then losing again quite badly, 7-2 against Sven Michel from Switzerland. And so now they're probably trying to end their losing streak of today. And if Ulsrud makes that shot for 3, it will be even more complicated for them now.
Well, okay, still a shot that has to
But
be made first.
It has to be made first, indeed. So again, it's those, let's say, routine draw shots that are really important.
Vi har lite
Getting that
tajt
extra point is good for the morale.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same shot basically Ulsrud had in the first game.
tajt om noe.
You can just add another
Vi er
rock,
tajte.
and if he gets that right, then he's certainly very comfortable on having his strawaway. So if they ever end up in a tricky position, he could get to move, but
Oh, and
he
yeah,
doesn't quite manage that. That is quite a bit too long.
yeah, we can see that Ulsrud is actually quite unhappy with that shot. We're saying. Normally don't expect those misses to happen, especially when you know Thomas Ulsrud, but when they happen, it's how to say. In a way, it's always if you make it, it's good for morale. It's bad for the other one, and then if you don't make it, you kind of feel bad, and the other team thinks like, "Whew."
That is certainly true.
And they probably get a bit encouraged also. So it's always really important for the skips to place those rocks well every time.
Yeah, if you have just joined us, we're here at the Curling Champions Tour event, Baden Masters 2013. This is presented by foxyapp.ch. Foxyapp.ch, your success is our business.
And this is also live also on Laula1.tv, and I'm Roger Golka, and I'm commenting with Bastian Wies.
De var ju liksom så här ifrån att göra, och då tycker jag att jag har sett en bra, ganska bra linje, så kallar han inte upp. Nej. Han ligger lite ute dock på han drar nu. Han ligger nog en från bit ute. Ska jag titta. Men generellt över hela både förra matchen och den här matchen så har det varit så. Ja, och sen, nej, men jag säger bara det. Och det är lite skillnad på ospelat spår och uppspel. Samma farter.
And so now 2-point lead for Ulsrud. So when you have a 2-point lead, you don't want to leave too many rocks in front. You want to play, as we say, defensive. It means clear everything out you can. So just start with the rock in the house. Just to know your opponent, actually. That's really what that rock is there for. And then you can see the Swedish teams will, with the last rock, classically play a bit on the outsides. And now either Ulsrud will play a guard, or he will just maybe probably try and bump his red rock a bit more in the center.
Samme linje.
Kan vi bare gå? Det er bare to, tror jeg. To.
Havad Pettersson.
Hard, så lenge det er linje. Kom igjen. Hard, jobber linja. Kom igjen, hard. Hard, aldri av. Hardere.
Hard sweeping.
Kom igjen.
Hard sweeping. Get that rock as close as they can at the house. So now we've got another good start to the end. 2 guards, 1 rock in the house.
Det är pris 06. 10, jag tycker det känns långt. Linjen är bra. Jag tror farten är okej. Linjen är bra. Ni har den. Japp. Hårt linje. Hårt. Kom igen. Efter garden också. Fortsätt köra. Den kallar över. Ta in den i bordet. Nej, bra. Bra så.
Var det en treers, va? Max frys.
And Swedish team is trying to play again the little freeze game. They need to score 2 once again. Like we were saying, when you fall back, you always want to try maybe and catch up the score as fast as you can. And if you have any questions or comments, don't forget to write to our address, live at curlingchampionstour.org. The address that you can see at the bottom of your screen. So we're always happy to answer whatever you have to ask or say. And please write us.
Bra spill. Hvorfor tror du man har da? Hæ? Hvorfor tror du man har? Han var hard. Så var det 3, så var han hard.
You are watching the m.baden Masters Curling Champions Tour event here in Switzerland, live on Laula1.tv. I heard a disappointment.
Du får ikke noen nedside her, men du kan rulle, hvis du ruller helt inntil den. Ser du kanskje bare halve?
Jeg ser litt luft innsida. Kjapp bare. Hvis ikke så drar han rundt hele farten.
Yeah, now we can see the teams here. On the right-hand side, you see team of Nicholas Edin from Sweden. Starting from the left, we have Nicholas Edin playing skip and 4th stones. Right next to that is Sebastian Kraut playing 3rd. To the right, Frederick Lindberg playing second, and Victor Schell playing lead. Stone score equals Edin. They're the current European and world champions.
Yeah, 2 titles last year, 2 out of 2. And now I think really Edin's, especially probably since that loss in the bronze medal game against Stockley, is probably desperate for having now that Olympic medal. Yeah, he was saying that for Vancouver was for him in a way, I wouldn't say some kind of practice, but it was a kind of a preparation, especially to try really and get that medal in Sochi. He was really, really close in Vancouver, and I think that those guys will be really, really hot for the Olympic Games in Russia. Frederick Lindberg trying to clear everything up in the house. You can see there's a lot of red rocks that are piled up.
And again, there is a run back made. Not quite all rocks removed, but still.
He's clearing a bit the center.
Yes, exactly.
Well, he clears the center, but he still stays in front, though.
That's true, but it's not that much of a pile anymore. Well, now you see Team Ulsrud from Norway, runner-up at the 2010 Olympics. On the left you can see Skep Thomas Ulsrud. Then right next to him you see second Christopher SWE. Then wearing the white jacket you have Torgeir Nergard, the third for the team, who is, by the way, just now delivering the rock. And on the right-hand side, just his ahead, you can see that is Havard Pettersen playing a lead for the team.
Yeah, you can see they're wearing another kind of fancy pants.
This picture, yeah, I think they swap for almost every game.
I think they have like 100 different types of them. At the start, I think they're supposed to be golf pants, but they were fine for curling. Anyways, they're kind of their style. There's been quite a few teams I've seen also who are retaking that style. I mean, even saw some girls team in Russia and even in Switzerland, some men's team and stuff are wearing some fancy pants. Becomes a bit of a fashion. It puts a bit of color at least.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I personally totally support the idea of fancy pants.
It gives a little, how to say, humoristic touch to the game.
And yeah, I mean, it's also an aspect of the game that what you want to have most in a game of curling is fun. And if trousers make you smile, then the world is all alright.
Well, for sure, it made a lot of people smile. I know it also made a lot of people growl in a way. People maybe were thinking it was not nice. Anyway, it's personal opinion.
But still, it made people think about curling, which I think is great.
Well, if 500,000 people in the group, for sure, it makes some publicity for our sport.
Again, another heavyweight shot. Still not quite open, and still not all opposing rocks removed. Nicholas Edin still facing 3. And it's now Torgeir Nergard's turn for the second time in this end. And he is asked by Skip just to replace the center guard. That was moved out of play.
Yeah, Edin, a bit of trouble there to score his 2. 3 rocks left to play for him, 3 yellows.
Forretning òg. Det er tight òg. Kom igjen, da.
People usually don't like to miss that occasion to see those teams for real.
Well, right now there is a bit of a gap between those rocks.
Yep. Pricka hålet är det viktigaste.
Yes, and Nicholas Edin is making a play at it. And again, if he ever misses it and hits the guard, it's absolutely no disaster.
Bra fart! Ben! Ben! Jump!
Arch sweeping for the sweep.
Hard! Go!
They are probably amongst the best sweepers in the world. I don't think there is many curlers who can say that they are physically as fit as the Swedish front end. Sebastian Krab almost getting knocked out by Christopher SWE.
Oh, indeed, sweeping, like we were saying before, has become a really important aspect of the game. And I mean, now you specifically just practice the sweeping. I mean, you do physical practice just for that also. But I mean, you just physically practice not only the strength, but also the technique. It's also you can see people sometimes who are very strong, but with the wrong technique, sometimes you lose a lot of power. In the end, to have the most efficient sweeping, you need to. It's a good combination between the pressure you put on the broom and the speed of the movements. And so you want to try and be as efficient as you can. And well, how to say, sweepers can sweep, I think, at the maximum about 20-25 seconds. And I mean, if you try just to sweep for 25 seconds, the way they sweep, you'll see is quite tiring. So it's important to be able to save your energy, especially when you play. If you go to the finals, you play 4, 5, 6, 7 games. 7 games in 1 weekend. It's 14 hours on the ice. So it's always very important to be physically prepared and not to waste your energy badly. A good shot against from Norway.
At the bottom of the screen, you find our email address, live@curlingchampionstour.org. Please write us if you've got any questions or comments. We are happy to answer them at any time, no matter what it is, be it a rule that is not clear or be it something about the players. We will do everything to answer your questions.
We accept every question, no discrimination.
Bra fart. Den är lång. Linjen är bra, den är lugn. Curla för
So
corner.
we have a question from Elena from Russia who's asking, why do they so loud cry? Why do they shout so loud? Well, it's because the rink is actually 40 meters long. Being 40 meters long, when you have also other teams playing, it's actually, you need to shout if you want your sweepers to hear you, because like we were saying, curling is also a lot about communication. So I mean, you have players on one side, on both sides of the ice, and if they want to hear each other, they have to shout. And also, I mean, when you shout on your sweepers so that they sweep, if you yell at them, it kind of encourages them. I mean, I remember once there was this, I swept a rock of Russ Howard. He's quite famous for yelling really hard, and I tell it, when he yells at you to sweep, I mean, you sweep as hard as you can. So, in a way, it's also quite encouraging. That's the reason. It's true that sometimes it can sound a little bit strange. I always imagine, somebody who knows nothing about curling, who enters a curling rink and sees people throwing rocks on ice and yelling. But actually, if you don't yell, then people don't hear you. So this is why you have to yell. So thank you for your question.
Nesten minus.
Helena.
Jeg tror det køler opp her til
Ja, men skal vi dra her?
Ja, jeg tror det. Fort tappe den i hølet da, men jeg tror det...
Eller er det lettere å dra her?
Tappe den hit, tror jeg du kan gjøre.
Ja, men da er det fort gjort å tappe den hit, da, så er det lettere slag på 2.
Nei, jeg liker å tappe den inn her. Tappe den forbi den gule, men...
Hvis ikke du drar her, så drar han her på neste.
Ja, vi må prøve da.
Ja, alternativet er å tappe inn her eller noe sånt, men jeg tror ikke det er noe lettere.
Jeg tror ikke det er noe lettere. Kant 12.
Again, looking at different options.
Husk på her, Håvard. Shot her også.
Yellow rock is really well buried, and you saw the ice is not extremely swingy.
Jeg tror du ender med å tappe den inn i hullet. Ok, så bakhånd rundt der sånn.
Hva tror dere? Jeg må snakke litt i slippet for å få den til å stå der ute. Ja. Hva liker du? 3 blank med litt snakk, eller? 2-9, 3 blank med litt snakk? Tror du det?
Nei, det er også egentlig det. Jeg er ikke sikker. Skal stikke utenfor. Jeg tror faktisk ikke 2-9 er så langt unna. Ja. Skal jeg bakhånd til tillegg, så. Nei, men... Ja.
So yeah, Thomas Ulsrud is just going for the draw. Probably feels he has no better option. I mean, either he does this or he tries and pick out that yellow one, but certainly it's more complicated.
Linja bra!
Bra linje!
Linja bra!
Å, vent på han!
Wow!
Vente! Må vente! Wow! Wow! Nå går kølleren! Nå går vi, skal vi gjemme noe?
Ja, gå da!
Ja, kjør da! Kjør! Langt fra for! Helt dit! Kom igjen da! Her da! Litt til!
It's amazing how swingy that was.
Great shot, amazing swing right at the end.
And great judgment of both sweepers and Skip.
There we see that it's really a teamwork. I mean, Ulsrud threw that rock perfectly, considering that he threw it also on the sides. And you throw quite rarely rocks on the sides, so often the speed is a little bit different. So you have to adapt yourself. It's also a question of feeling. The sweepers swept it perfectly, and there was a really good communication between the sweeper and the counter skip for direction and speed. I mean, this is perfect shot, I think. And Edin is looking now at some crazy double to try and score 2. Well, either he plays the same one than Ulsrud, or he tries some crazy double, or he does a tap back, just like Sebastian Krupp is showing right now.
Bra. Jag tror inte det finns något annat där.
Så ett lätt med tappen heller, vi ser ingenting av det.
Måste på halvträff för att tappa ner den mot den.
Finns den för 2 om man spelar någon typ
Hackfart liksom?
Precis, meter här liksom.
Nej. Väl inte spelare heller för man är missad.
Halvträff. Jag kan ju nästan inte missa, alltså, vi kan ju aldrig få för tjock träff.
Nej, det
Jag kan ju missa saker här som den är hård, men ja. Man borde kunna spela den för 2.
Kanske.
Allting löst borde vi kunna få en etta på.
Ja, du kan spela det om du vill.
Det känns som det enklaste, det här är ju en riktigt svår.
Nej, det tror jag inte på. Jag tror på en tap eller prova skjutning på dubbel.
So a big discussion again. It's those kinds of shots. Once again, the whole team kind of has to agree on one. In the end, it's always going to be Edin who will have the last word, knowing he throws the rock. He has to feel it the most. Still, he's quite in a tough position there. Ulsrud played what we call, a key shot, So there's shots that if you make them, it makes really a big difference. I mean, imagine he hadn't made it. I mean, Edin would have had just an easy draw for 2. And by making it, he just complicates Edin's life so much.
Lättare om jag går upp bara så har man
When you
bara
manage to make
linjen.
those shots,
Det
you're
är så jag tänkte.
always putting your opponent under pressure.
Bara täten, då blir liksom luckan ganska liten också.
Går vi i den röda där uppe så händer ingenting.
Då händer ingenting. Nej. Då är gul händer inte heller någonting. Nej. Fan, hackfartsrök sopa in den här till andra och grejer.
Sarg! Nej! Sarg! Nej! Med nu! Sarg!
Med! Wow!
Sarg!
Wow! Aldrig!
Med!
Wow!
Quite good. Oh, a beautiful shot there from Niklas Edin.
Lite tuffare så
He
han
pulls out the big game there to score one. Only one, I want to say,
Det är ganska
but
aggressivt.
still really nice shot.
Well,
Perfect weight.
it wasn't very easy to make that. So
Yeah, perfect weight. Perfect angle. And Niklas saves the day right now. We can imagine that if Ulsrud had stolen that end there, it would have been 5-2 with 3 ends to play. No, sorry, my bad. With 4 ends to play, it would have been quite complicated for Edin, but now it's only 4-3, and it's still a tight game. Ulsrud having the last rock in the 5th end.
Eda har den. Nu skär den. Stanna. Det är bra så. Bra spelning. Bra Linike. Den var nog inte möjlig. Nej. Du spela lite hårdare.
okay, now we would like to update you on what is happening on the other sheets in the other quarterfinals. On sheet 1, we've got Team Michael from Switzerland leading Rasmus Stjerne from Denmark 3-2 after 4 ends played.
Big steal of 2 there in the 3rd end from the defending champions, actually. Sven Michel won last year in the final against Peter de Cruz, which we saw this afternoon. Yeah, so trying to defend his title, the Swiss Olympic team.
Actually a matchup between 2 Olympian teams. Sven Michel is going to the Olympics for Switzerland, and Rasmus Stjerne just got confirmed, I believe, last week to be the Danish Olympic team.
Which is not such a big surprise, I have to say. But indeed, 4 Olympic teams actually on this out of 8. With Brad Gushu, former Olympic champion, so...
Well, on sheet 2, we've got Pascal Hess from Switzerland playing Stefan Hasler from Switzerland as well. And
Swiss derby.
yeah, Swiss derby. 5-3 for Pascal Hess at the moment. Sheet 3, you can see our game.
Yeah, they didn't put it the score, but it's 4-3 now.
And on the last sheet, we've got the Canadian former Olympic champion Brad Gushu playing the Swiss team of Alex Attinger.
Attinger, yeah.
And Brad Gushu is leading the Swiss team by 4-1.
It's going to be quite complicated, I think, for Attinger, even though he's quite fancies the offensive game, so you never know, he can still catch up, but
it's going to be tough.
Brad Gushu's team is also quite good. And we're back to our close game. It's already the second stones. Mr. Lindberg.
Det är riktigt kort ut, eller? Behöver curla också. Viktor. Nej, där. Curla så länge den kan och sen måste du dra den.
Ta den nu, Viktor.
Ja, dra nu. Här nere. Hej.
Enten den.
Fristende å prøve å kjappe på den, hvis du skjønner det. Ja, men det er vanskelig å få til.
Well, he's got his two center guards, which will bug Ulsrud.
But the rock that was supposed to come around
det ser
the
fint
center
ut der.
guards is pretty much open, at least half open.
Yep.
So definitely removable for
Det er
Thomas
også helt
Ulsrud.
greit. Det er kanskje nesten bedre.
Yeah, it seems he's just going for the house. The other option would be to peel the guards. He's one up with last rock. Well, he can afford to take a few risks maybe if he ever manages to score 2 or even maybe 3, who knows, but he could already kill the game right now. But he still has to be careful. Center guards can be quite dangerous.
God plass.
Ingenting. Ja. Få en liten rull ut, Torger.
Norwegians
Det er bra, det.
trying to roll that red rock a little bit further up from the center to avoid it to avoid leaving that rock in a helpful position for Edin. As we know, the Edin not having the last rock will try and play in the middle, so the more rocks you have there, the more advantage just it will be for him. In theory, of course, sometimes you always have some situations where you have a last rock and all kinds of rocks in the middle and you're in a good position, but you always have to be careful. Edin also has to be careful not to get a big end taken on him. He has to risk a bit. I mean, he's one down without. But I mean, if Ulsrud scores 1, then he can score 2 in the 6th. So he's back in the game.
Will be all tied, and Edin has scored in the even ends, so that would definitely be his plan for the rest of the match.
So right now, I think he's probably really thinking about how can we maybe try and steal without without risking getting a 3 or 4 taken on us. Yeah. Right now, the option of the draw is probably the only one for the moment.
So asking Fredrik Linkberg to play exactly the same shot again as before, which is of course always a good thing if a player can throw a rock twice, because then you know the ice, the player knows how long, how hard he has to push. And this one just
rubbed really.
Rubs the guard. That is rather unfortunate for the Swedish team.
Yeah, just when you see that curling is really sometimes a question of millimeters. You can win game for a millimeter.
And you can lose it for a millimeter.
You can lose it, yeah, of course. See, that really wasn't very much, but enough just to catch all fail. The weight was really nice. Direction was so close.
Yeah, Thomas Ulsrud now just looking to remove that and make sure that there is no accumulation of yellow stones in the house to minimize their own risk. Ooh, gets a bit lucky there.
Yeah, that would have been a pretty unfortunate jam. But it didn't happen, so everything's fine. Life goes on.
And Nicholas Edin could actually keep going on what he did to the 2 rocks before the one coming up now. But he's now also considering playing a run back.
Vad gillar du? Jag vet inte riktigt. Den blev lite svårare nu efter touchen. Man har inte riktigt... Jag kan ju runda det alltså, men det är lite gamla
exact same situation than before.
kommer bli svårt ändå att inte tappa 2 nästan om vi rundar nu.
Alltså sätter vi inte skjutningen bra
Skulle ha behövt få in någonting mer här framme också.
Ska jag sätta den andra skjutningen då?
Ja, jag är på den här, ja.
Kanske ska skjuta den då. Missar den lite på insidan så får dubbelcenter öppnar upp dubben. Det är ganska bra. Alltså, fattar du vad jag menar? Kan jag spela den här
And once
skjutningen?
again, some team discussion. Like we were saying, he's in a situation that's really complicated to manage right now, I think. It's hard to decide what to do, really, because he has to think the end out. And at this stage of the game, he really can't afford to get a big end taken on him. That would probably be game over. So it's too early in the game to play all or nothing. But in a way, he still has to take a few risks. But with those 3 Norwegian rocks in the house and them having last rock, he cannot be too foolish. Difficult choice for Edin. We can see that he's having trouble. Anyway, curling allows you to joke with your opponent, so it's all right.
Well, okay, these guys have played each other so many times. They've been on the tour for like forever, so they know each other pretty well. And I think they're quite good friends off the ice. So
yeah, well, they speak well, I wouldn't say the same language, but roughly the same language. I mean, Norwegians and Swedish. Each of them speaking Norwegian and Swedish can understand each other. I don't know if that's really a good result. Because his shooter is staying exactly in the same position in that guard he just hit first. So those 2 red rocks are still guarded.
Jag ligger nästan heller inte att dra på en till där, för då blir det nog mycket här. För här så har han mer att dra runt. Ja, runt där, syns jag.
Eneste han har nå er jo den. Hit.
Det är vanskelig. Nej, enten där eller bakkant där.
Da får du bare nå stoppe i. Eventuelt her, da.
Okej.
Der.
Bak 4 där.
Jeg er med.
Det är hyggligere att dra nå, synes jeg. Ja, det er like glatt der. Det er ganske mye, føler jeg. Wow.
Til kosten min.
Kjentes hard ut, altså. Kjentes hard ut.
Vi må forbi eggene. Så tøffe dere kan. Det er helst helt hit.
Helt akkurat.
Her er optimalt.
Vel satt seg litt på slutten av åttere.
Her er optimalt.
Bak 10, ja.
Ja, aldri gjennom. Kom igjen, Håvard. Kom igjen. Bra.
Ja, det finns en gimmick-kvadruppel här om du sätter skjutningen exakt där.
And Ulsrud just drawing one to the side. It seems to be a bit. Yeah.
well, Thomas Ulsrud probably doesn't have a lot of ideas what to do with his rocks anymore.
Yeah.
So he decided to just put it on the side.
Well, he's quite in a bit of trouble there, I have to say. Ulsrud is lying
4 times now.
and he has last rock. It's already third rock. But as you know, they're good at runbacks.
Oh, that was close.
Oh, that's quite disappointing, I suppose.
But still, there's 3 rocks left for Thomas Ulsrud.
But the situation is not much better for the Swedish. They still have a center guard, and those rocks in the center are cleared. Ulsrud is looking at a draw. I would personally look at the peel there in this situation. Just you're 1 up, you have three rocks in the house. But if he peels after, Edin would probably play a freeze on the side, so he probably wants to just draw one behind the guard, take position, and force Edin to a difficult shot in the center. But I mean, if you peel the rock, the guard, you have virtually 0 chances of getting a steal taken on you. So that's personally what I would do.
Yeah, and I think I personally agree with you. I would probably take guard as well, but he's maybe afraid that the guard could, when being taken off, jam on one of the rocks.
That is true.
Because that happens quite quickly. It's again a question of inches.
Yeah, that's sometimes what you try and avoid is having when you have a center guard and you just want to play on the sides, just play on one side and not on both, so at least you leave yourself one side open to peel the guard without having a jam.
And that's not the case here anymore.
Yeah, but I mean, they're level, they could still, anyway. But he didn't even seem really to consider that option, so it's going to be the draw. Well, if he makes the draw perfectly, it's good. But there will still be that guard that will give a chance to Edin to steal. And when I think when you're with last rock, and you have an open house like this, you can just with 3 rocks in the house.
Yeah, but I believe he doesn't consider the guard a threat due to the fact that the guard is not very close to the house.
Yeah, that's true.
It is quite far off, so he's pretty sure that he can always come around it, no matter what Nicholas Edin does.
Yeah, that's true.
And in this case here, for example, if Nicholas Edin managed to put it behind the red one perfectly, he's convinced that he would manage to come around it and just tap the red onto the yellow.
But it would still make a more complicated shot, though. And leaving him a freeze on the side and an open takeout. But that's true what you're saying, that guard is still quite far away, which he probably considered.
Mer bak 4, inte för långt för det blir i och för sig tangeringen kan han få gå på. Det är hans bread and butter är ju tappen så ja. Hänga 4-foten, försöka vara skottet så jämnt som möjligt. Bakom röd helst. Ja, okay. Nu får han curlen. Känns lite långt. Ja, men
bra linje!
Vänta då. Linjen. Bara för linje.
Med!
Ja, farten är igenom 4.
Med!
Vi kommer inte ligga snott om det går.
Ja!
Wow, Eka! Ekis! Ekis! Den är hel plus!
Good draw there.
That was a great try.
Yeah, and there we see.
But I believe that from either side you can get access to that rock.
Yeah, but still, the center guard makes it so much more complicated. Anyway.
Let's get this could be the decisive end of this game.
Resultatet best på outan då. Ja, spill där du ligger. Spill där du vill då.
Kant 4, Torger, og så bør i hvert fall ikke henge rik.
Hvilken vei? Hvilken vei vil du gå?
Alt.
Jeg tror ikke det kan være noe mer enn hekk, da tror jeg ikke folk greier festa.
Snap mer, eller? Ja. Snap mer, Torger! Ja, det er bare 2-9, ikke sant? Det er hack nesten, eller 2-8. 2-9.
2-8-2-9 her.
So he's heading for the back line, wait.
Mokken kan ikke, og så må vi helst ikke jumpe til å begynne da. La han få litt lurt.
Ja, 2-8.
Ja.
Det slår ned, 2-8.
Ja, vi må få buen da. myk! Nære!
Ren.
Slipp myk
Ja,
og mål!
ja.
Hard!
Hard.
Hardere!
Hard sweeping. Oh, and there he rubs off the guard.
Okay.
Well, he doesn't seem very happy with that.
Really? But I still wonder why he didn't take it off, though. Oh, Edin suddenly is put back in this end. Well, he played a really good shot on his first, though. No doubt about that.
That is true, but it has to. Niklas Edin has to play a good shot, or Thomas Ulsrud will still have the opportunity to score multiple points here.
Well, the yellow guard is blocking the left-hand side now. So I suppose if he ends up top 12 in front of the red,
There's quite a big chance that he can get away with a steal here.
he could get away with a good steal. He still has to be careful because his yellow rock is half open. He could, for example, freeze also onto that yellow rock on the side and give one to Ulsrud. I mean, there are many options, though. Probably playing some kind of guard on his own rock would be, in my opinion, a good option. But still, Ulsrud was such in a good situation before that that draw behind that center guard. Everything, there was just a center guard. Everything was on the side. There was no rocks in play, and suddenly Edin is back into stealing position.
Still, he's not sure what he would like to play. He's now gathered his whole team to discuss the opportunities they have.
Vi måste tänka, han fick ju jävligt mycket curl nu. Han behöver inte stanna kvar i bothallen och han får en för 4 liksom. Man måste täcka, måste ligga bite-linan där och då lämnar man ju den. Om man inte ligger jävligt nära boten. Det eller slå någon av dem. Eller dra
Alltså kommer vi hit.
Kan frysa den, kan undan där.
Han har alltid en clearing här. Vänta. Spelar man garden under gamla marken så ligger man för nära den skjut som inte är så himla svår heller. Den biten är. Så alltså, det finns ju en vits att spela den.
Taken är inte så svår liksom, men det är ju lättare att man rullar ihop det sådär, men i och för sig ska man sätta den då.
Ja, men alltså den där täcker ju nästan kanten, så lyckas du bara lite inåt så finns det ju ingen tangent där. Så den finns ju för den lite.
Well, Edin has to be still very careful because there are still 4 red rocks in the house, despite the fact that he's lying shot. Well, yes, I think well, in the end there are 2 options really. Either he plays a guard or he puts a second shot in the house.
That is
one or the other.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And well, I think they have to be very careful that they don't talk too much about this rock, because I think we've had it in the game before, where Team De Cruz talked about a certain shot for far too long, and the longer you talk about the rock, the smaller the chance that you actually will make it.
Yeah.
You can quite often see that a rock which is discussed quite for a long time does not end up as you would like it. Same with timeouts. It's not very uncommon that teams, after they've taken a timeout, of course this is not possible in a tournament like this, but in Worlds or Europeans, for example, don't make the shot. That's something the team has to take into consideration.
Well, sometimes you end up losing kind of your momentum. When you play, you're also in the rhythm because at level, players play quite fast. The skip doesn't have to wait for his players. He can often just put the broom down. His player is already ready to throw, etc. So you kind of have a rhythm. And sometimes when you start talking a long time, you kind of lose that rhythm. And like you were saying, sometimes it happens that after a too long talk, the rock is simply missed. But anyway, now it's also quite an important situation, and it seems like he's opting for placing a second shot, which I think is a pretty good option. I mean, behind his corner guard, because in the end, if he decides the guard or the second shot. But after, if you decide for the second shot, you really have to think. where exactly do you want to put it? Because we're really in those kinds of situations where you think, I really want the rock here in this spot and nowhere else really. So it's very important that everybody knows exactly where the rock should be. And seems a little bit fast. Uh-oh.
Oh, that is not good for Nicholas Edin.
Uh-oh. Yeah, well, now I think he has to cross his fingers now that Ulsrud misses. Yeah.
Well, if Ulsrud gets that yellow one, the back button out, then yeah, there's quite a high chance that Thomas Ulsrud will win this game.
Yeah, well, I think Ulsrud could either play like the run back as he's showing, or the heel, picking it out on the open side.
If he plays the run back, he's probably got a bigger chance of sticking around with his shooter.
Well, he also has a good chance of making a run back double, and that would be game over probably.
Yeah, that would definitely be game over.
But you wouldn't play for that, you just play for run back. Double comes up, then
you're
good for you.
Then you're happy, but you have to concentrate on what is really important. And if you manage to run back, however, it will end up, you always score 3, I would think. And if you get the double, you can score as many as 5. So
already 2 is good, but I think that if he sticks it well. One of their, as we call, key shots missed there by Edin. As we see, just that simple miss suddenly gives Ulsrud a really big chance to score 3. And who knows, maybe 4 or 5. So here's Thomas Ulsrud from Norway. Important shot. Nearly a shot for the victory, actually. Sweepers seem quite confident.
Great shot.
And that's 4 red rocks.
That would be.
So this is going to be, how to say, very complicated now for Nicholas Edin to come back in this game with 3 ends to go and 5 points down.
Well, actually, they are shaking hands.
So they're already shaking hands.
That is it.
I think Edin's got enough of it. Yeah, that's been quite a bad day for him. Yeah, 3 games, 3 defeats. And Ulsrud is through to the semifinals.
Yeah, and as you watch the players clearing the rocks, please stay tuned. We will have an interview with winning skip Thomas Ulsrud shortly. Yes, and whilst we're waiting for the interview, we once more would like to thank our presenting sponsor, foxyapp.ch. Your success is our business. They are presenting sponsor of the 2013 Baden Masters, part of the Curling Champions Tour here in Baden, Switzerland. And of course our main sponsors have to be thanked as well. Bank Raiffeisen, Hotel du Parc, and Dauwache Sicherheitsdienste. Thank you very much. So there is, before the interview, there is going to be a last shot draw by Thomas Ulsrud to determine who has last rock tomorrow morning in the semi-finals.
Jeg tror sånn som det har pleid å være når vi har dratt etter matchene, ikke sant? At den suger litt når den kommer inn på slutten bare. Så tre blank tror jeg er ganske bra. Nei. Ja, men de andre, den forrige når vi dro knappen etter kampen siste gang, så hadde jeg 3 blank. Den dro seg rett inn i knappen, så. Tror vi prøver det.
Fint å få hammeren i morgen.
Og 3 blank var det siste du spilte oppover her på Inen. Ok?
Ja. Ok, let's... Ja, det løser ut. Nå må du gå på gutter. Aldri av. Aldri av, så. Nei, aldri av. Kom igjen og jobbe nå. Jobbe nå, vi får full 4 på den her. Kom igjen.
Yes, and our broadcast will, after this interview, continue tomorrow morning at 9 p.m. local time. 9 a.m. local time, I'm sorry, where we will have one of the semi-finals. And of course, in the afternoon at 1:30 p.m., we will broadcast the final live.
Jeg tror jeg pælma av gårde, for jeg følte jeg var løs. 22, ja.
As we're waiting still for the interview, we would like to update you on the other games, on the other quarterfinals. The Swiss team of Sven Michel is leading Denmark and Rasmus Stjernie 4-2 after 7 ends. On sheet 2, we have Pascal Hess leading Stefan Hasler 7-5 after 7 ends played. And on the 4th sheet, we have Brad Gushu winning over Alexander Attinger of Switzerland 7-2.
Congratulations for your win. So now you're through the semi-final. First tournament of the season, right?
Yeah, that's a good start for the season. So I'm happy with the way the guys are playing. So they leave me with a lot of easy shots. So that's good early in the season.
Yeah. So you had well, the game was in quite early, but you had I think, quite a good advantage during the whole game. And generally, you were pretty good situations.
Yeah, we had the hammer, managed to take 2 in the first, and we gave back an easy 2 to them in the second. But I think we had pretty much control of this game.
Yeah. So. Are you going to have, let's say, because you're going to go to the Olympics, so you have like a good, nice charged programs? Will you play every weekend, all the time?
No, not every weekend, but we've been training good this summer, so the physique is good on the team. So we told our coaches we're so old, so we can only do it every 4th year. So when it's Olympics, we can do the good training. Yeah. So we're ready for the season.
And so before that tournament, did you manage to train a lot on the ice, or it was mostly off-ice training?
Off ice this summer, but we had ice for 2 weeks in Oslo. But it was a bit frosty and stuff like that. But we managed to practice for 2 weeks. So.
Okay, so you think it really makes a difference if you manage to, because in those starts of season tournaments, nobody really practices a lot. Do you think it really makes a big difference when you manage to practice even 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think so. For us this week, it's been good. We managed to win 5 games now in a row. So I think if you practice, it helps. So yeah,
it helps.
A couple of other years we come here to Baden and haven't practiced, haven't been on ice before coming here, and then a bit wobbly on the first couple of games. But this year it's been good.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, good luck for tomorrow.
Thank you.
And I hope we'll see you back in the final then.
We're playing a Swiss team. You sure you mean that?
I don't know. We'll see. Okay, good.